The air was thick with the somber silence of a funeral as I stood beside my father's casket, my eyes brimming with tears. The finality of his passing weighed heavily on my heart, leaving an emptiness I knew would never fully heal. Just as I began to find solace in the embrace of my brother Ellis, a jarring voice cut through the stillness. "In our family, we take care of our own," Marla declared with a sly smile, completely disregarding the grief etched on my face. Her intrusion into this sacred moment only amplified the discomfort I had long felt about her relationship with my father. Marla, my father's longtime companion but never legally his wife, had made her presence known once again, this time with a shocking announcement. "I plan to take over the family home, to keep us all together," she said, her eyes narrowing as they met mine. I felt a surge of anger, my fists clenching at my sides. This was our home, the one I had grown up in, the one that held so many memories of my father. How dare Marla waltz in and claim it as her own, as if she had any right to do so? "That's ridiculous," Ellis interjected, his brow furrowed in disbelief. "Dad's will clearly states that the house and his assets are to be divided between us, his children." Marla's gaze remained fixed on me, her lips curling into a thin smile. "Oh, but your father and I had an understanding. He wanted me to be taken care of, to keep the family together. Surely you both can see the wisdom in that." I opened my mouth to protest, but the words caught in my throat. My father had always been a gentle soul, easily swayed by Marla's persuasive nature. Had he truly signed over his home to her, leaving Ellis and me with nothing? Panic began to set in as I contemplated the implications of Marla's claim. This was my childhood home, a sanctuary that had nurtured me through the good and the bad. The thought of losing it, of having Marla's presence loom over me constantly, filled me with a sense of dread. Ellis placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder, his expression mirroring the determination I felt welling up inside me. "We'll fight this, Tegan. We won't let her take what's rightfully ours." I nodded, my resolve hardening. Marla may have manipulated my father, but she had underestimated the strength of our bond as siblings. Together, we would not let her win without a fight. As the funeral guests began to disperse, Marla approached me, her voice dripping with false concern. "My dear, I know this is a difficult time, but I assure you, I only want what's best for our family. You'll see, in the end, this is the right decision." Her words only served to fuel my growing resentment. This woman, who had always been an outsider in our lives, now had the audacity to claim our home and our family as her own. I refused to let her take away the last piece of my father that I had left. "This is not your family, Marla," I spat, my voice trembling with emotion. "You may have had my father's ear, but you will never have his children's loyalty. We won't let you take what's ours without a fight." Marla's eyes narrowed, and for a fleeting moment I saw a glimmer of something darker beneath her facade. But as quickly as it had appeared, it vanished, replaced by a thin, patronizing smile. "We'll see about that, my dear," she said, turning on her heel and striding away, leaving me and Ellis to confront the looming battle that lay ahead. As I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the legal documents Marla had presented, a sinking feeling weighed heavily in the pit of my stomach. The words on the pages blurred together as tears threatened to spill from my eyes. My father's signature, scrawled in a shaky hand, seemed to mock me, a silent testament to Marla's manipulation. Ellis, his face etched with a mixture of disbelief and anger, slammed his fist on the table, causing me to jump. "I can't believe he signed this over to her. This is our home, our inheritance." I reached across the table, squeezing his hand in a silent plea for calm. "We have to find a way to challenge this, Ellis. Marla can't just waltz in and claim everything after Dad's death." My brother's jaw tightened, his eyes narrowing. "Oh, she thinks she can, Tegan. But I'll be damned if I let her get away with it." I nodded, determination stealing my resolve. Marla had been a constant presence in our lives, slowly worming her way into my father's affections. But I had always sensed something off about her. Now, with these documents in front of us, her true colors were starting to show. "We need to dig deeper, find out what else she's been hiding." I paused, chewing on my bottom lip as a thought occurred to me. Maybe we should reach out to Finn. He's a lawyer, and he still has connections in the community. Ellis raised a brow, a faint smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "Finn? Huh?" Didn't you two have a falling out a couple of years ago? I felt the heat rise to my cheeks, the memories of my broken relationship with Finn still as fresh as the day it ended. That was a long time ago, Ellis. I'm sure he'd be willing to help for old time's sake. My brother's expression softened, and he gave my hand a gentle squeeze. Okay, let's give him a call. If anyone can help us take down Marla's ridiculous claims, it's Finn. As I dialed Finn's number, my heart raced. It had been years since we'd spoken, and the thought of facing him again filled me with a mixture of trepidation and longing. When his familiar voice answered, I took a deep breath and launched into an explanation of the situation, pleading for his assistance. To my relief, Finn's response was immediate. Of course, Tegan. I'll do whatever I can to help. Just tell me what you need. Over the next few days, Finn dove headfirst into unraveling the web of deceit Marla had woven. He uncovered a trail of past marriages, each one ending under mysterious circumstances. It became clear that Marla's sole motive was to gain control of our family's assets, even if it meant manipulating my father and tearing our family apart. As Finn presented his findings, Ellis and I listened in stunned silence. The woman we had welcomed into our lives, the one who had claimed to care for our father, was nothing more than a cold-hearted schemer. Marla has a son, Jared, who's been estranged from her for years, Finn revealed, his brow furrowed in concentration. I think he might be able to provide some valuable insight into her past and her motivations. I exchanged a glance with Ellis, both of us realizing that the battle against Marla was only just beginning. With Finn's help, we would uncover the truth and reclaim what was rightfully ours, no matter the cost. As we left Finn's office, a newfound determination burned within me. Marla had underestimated the strength of our family's bond, and I vowed to do whatever it took to protect our legacy and our home. As Finn delved deeper into Marla's past, the web of deceit he uncovered only grew more tangled and disturbing. With Ellis by my side, we listened intently as the details unfolded, each revelation fueling our determination to take down this woman who had wormed her way into our lives. Marla has been married 3 times before, Finn said, his brow furrowed in concentration. Each marriage ended under mysterious circumstances, with substantial assets and inheritances passing into her possession. I felt a chill run down my spine. Marla had always seemed so charming and maternal, but the truth was far more sinister. So she's done this before, manipulating men for their money and then cutting them out of the picture? Finn nodded grimly. It appears so, and the patterns are strikingly similar to what she's trying to do with your father's estate. Ellis clenched his fist, his knuckles turning white. The bitch, he growled. I can't believe we let her get this far. We should have seen through her act sooner. I reached out and placed a hand on my brother's arm, hoping to calm his rising temper. We can't change the past, Ellis, but we can make sure she doesn't succeed this time. Finn leaned forward, his eyes burning with determination. That's where I come in. With the evidence I've gathered, we can challenge Marla's claims to the house and your father's assets. But we'll need to act quickly before she can solidify her hold on the situation. As we discussed the next steps, a familiar face suddenly appeared in the doorway. Jared, Marla's estranged son, stood there, his expression a mix of apprehension and anger. I heard about what's happening with my mother, he said, his voice low and gruff. I want to help stop her. Ellis and I exchanged a surprised glance. Marla had never mentioned having a son, let alone one that was estranged from her. Finn, however, seemed unsurprised by Jared's arrival. We were hoping you might show up, Finn said, motioning for Jared to join us. Your insight into your mother's past could be invaluable in our fight against her. Jared took a seat, his gaze fixed on the documents strewn across the table. She's done this before, you know, he said, his voice heavy with bitterness. Manipulating people, using them for her own gain. I should have known she'd try something like this with your father. As Jared shared his own harrowing experiences with Marla's deceit, the pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place. We learned of the countless lives she had destroyed, the families she had torn apart, all in her relentless pursuit of wealth and power. She's ruthless, Jared said, his eyes darkening with a mixture of anger and shame. I should have warned your father, but I was too afraid of what she might do. I reached out and squeezed his hand, hoping to convey a sense of understanding. It's not your fault, Jared. Marla's the one to blame here. But now we have a chance to stop her, to make sure she doesn't hurt anyone else. Finn nodded, his expression grim. With Jared's help and the evidence we've gathered, I think we have a strong case to challenge Marla's claims, but we need to move quickly before she can solidify her hold on your father's estate. As we left Finn's office, a newfound sense of purpose and determination filled me. Marla may have thought she had the upper hand, but she had underestimated the power of our united front. Together we would expose her true nature and ensure that she faced the consequences of her actions. As Finn continued to build our case against Marla, I knew we needed to move quickly if we had any chance of reclaiming my father's home and assets. With Jared's help, we had uncovered a wealth of information about Marla's past, but there was still so much more to uncover. We need to keep the pressure on, Finn said, his brow furrowed in concentration. Marla's not going to give up easily, and she's got deep pockets to fight this thing out in court. I nodded, my mind racing with the implications of our impending legal battle. What can we do to gain the upper hand? Finn paused for a moment, then leaned forward, a glint of determination in his eyes. I think it's time we brought in another ally, someone with a personal connection to you and the case. I felt a knot form in the pit of my stomach. You don't mean? Tegan, I think we need to reach out to your ex-boyfriend, Finn, Finn said, his voice low and serious. I opened my mouth to protest, but Finn held up a hand, silencing me. I know it's not an easy thing to do, but Finn has the legal expertise and community connections that could be invaluable in taking down Marla. Ellis, who had been silent throughout the conversation, finally spoke up. Tegan, I know it's not ideal, but Finn's right. If anyone can help us beat Marla at her own game, it's him. I sighed, running a hand through my hair in frustration. The thought of reaching out to Finn, the man I had once loved, filled me with a mix of emotions. Apprehension, longing, and a tinge of regret. All right, I conceded, steeling my resolve, but I want to be the one to call him. I need to know that he's on board with this, and that he's willing to put aside our history for the sake of taking down Marla. Finn nodded, a small smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. I understand. Just let me know what he says. As I dialed Finn's number, my heart pounded in my chest. It had been years since we'd spoken, and I couldn't help but wonder how he would react to my call. When he answered, his voice instantly sent a familiar warmth through me. Tegan? Is everything okay? I took a deep breath, diving straight into the details of our situation. Finn, I need your help. Marla is trying to take over my father's home and assets, and we need someone with your legal expertise to help us fight her. There was a brief pause, and I held my breath, bracing for his refusal, but to my surprise his response was immediate and unwavering. Of course, Tegan. Whatever you need, I'm here to help. I felt a wave of relief wash over me, and a small smile tugged at the corners of my mouth. Thank you, Finn. I really appreciate this. As we discussed the next steps, I couldn't help but feel a glimmer of hope. With Finn on our side, we stood a better chance of taking down Marla's nefarious plans. And perhaps, in the process, we might even find a way to heal the wounds of our past. As I hung up the phone, I caught Ellis's approving nod. See? I told you he'd be willing to help. I couldn't help but chuckle, feeling a newfound sense of determination. Yeah, don't rub it in. Let's just focus on taking Marla down once and for all. With Finn's expertise and Jared's insider knowledge, I knew we were one step closer to exposing Marla's true nature and reclaiming what rightfully belonged to her. The battle may have just begun, but I was more ready than ever to face it head-on. As Finn continued to build our case against Marla, it became clear that she was growing increasingly desperate to maintain her grip on my father's estate. The more evidence we uncovered, the more vicious her tactics became. She's been spreading lies about you and Ellis in the community, Finn revealed, his expression one of disgust. She's trying to turn everyone against you, to isolate you, and make her claims seem more legitimate. I felt a surge of anger, my hands clenching into fists. How dare she? This is our home, our family's legacy, and she's trying to take it all away. Ellis, his face flushed with rage, slammed his fist on the table. I won't let her get away with this. We've got to expose her for the conniving snake she is. Finn nodded, his brow furrowed in concentration. I agree, but we need to be strategic. Marla's got deep pockets and powerful connections in this community. If we make a wrong move, she could bury us in legal battles for years. I chewed on my bottom lip, my mind racing with the implications of Finn's words. Marla had already caused so much damage, not just to our family, but to countless others. The thought of her escaping justice filled me with a sense of dread. There has to be a way to bring her down, once and for all, I said, determination stealing my voice. We can't let her win, not after everything she's done. Finn's eyes narrowed, and a faint smile tugged at the corners of his mouth. I think I might have an idea, he said, leaning forward, but it's going to require all of us working together to pull it off. As Finn laid out his plan, I felt a spark of hope ignite within me. It was a bold move, one that would put Marla's deceit on full display for the entire community to see. Ellis and I exchanged a long, contemplative look, silently weighing the risks and rewards. I'm in, Ellis said, his voice laced with determination. If there's a chance we can take that conniving bitch down, I'm all for it. I nodded, my own resolve hardening. Let's do it. It's time Marla faced the consequences of her actions. Over the next few days, we put Finn's plan into motion, carefully coordinating with Jared to ensure everything fell into place. Marla, unaware of the impending storm, continued her campaign of misinformation, fueling the growing rift between us and the community. But as the community event we had chosen as the stage for our confrontation drew near, I could feel the tension mounting. Marla, sensing that her control was slipping, became increasingly erratic and aggressive, lashing out at us with vicious insults and threats. You think you can just waltz in and take what's mine? She hissed, her eyes burning with a fury I had never seen before. This house, this family, they belong to me, and I'll do whatever it takes to keep them. I stood firm, meeting her gaze without flinching. This is not your family, Marla. It never was, and we're going to prove it, once and for all. As the event began, the air was thick with anticipation. Finn, Ellis, and Jared were in position, ready to expose Marla's web of lies. And when the moment came, when Marla's facade finally crumbled under the weight of our evidence, the community erupted in a chorus of gasps and outraged cries. Marla, her eyes wild with desperation, tried to flee, but Finn and Ellis were there to block her path. It's over, Marla, Finn said, his voice laced with triumph. Your reign of manipulation and deceit ends here. As Marla was led away by the authorities, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The battle had been won, and our family's legacy had been reclaimed. But the true victory lay in the knowledge that Marla's reckoning was finally at hand. The air was charged with a palpable tension as Finn, Ellis, and I took the stage at the community event. Marla stood before us, her eyes narrowed with a mix of fury and desperation. I could practically feel the weight of her deception pressing down on us, daring us to expose the truth. Everyone, please, listen to me, Marla pleaded, her voice dripping with false sincerity. Tegan and Ellis are trying to steal what rightfully belongs to our family. I only want to keep us together to honor the wishes of my beloved partner. I clenched my fists, my nails digging into the palms of my hands. The nerve of her to stand there and spin her web of lies, even in the face of the evidence we had gathered. Finn stepped forward, his expression stern and unwavering. That's where you're wrong, Marla. The truth is, you've been manipulating this family for years, isolating your partner from his own children, and using his assets for your own gain. A hush fell over the crowd as Finn began to rattle off the details of Marla's past. The multiple marriages, the suspicious circumstances surrounding their endings, and the pattern of her exploiting her partner's wealth. Marla's face contorted with a rage I had never seen before. You have no idea what you're talking about, she spat, her eyes darting frantically around the room. This is all lies, fabricated by these ungrateful children. Ellis stepped up, his voice steady and unyielding. The only liar here is you, Marla. We have the documents, the evidence, to prove that you've been manipulating our father and us for your own selfish gain. Jared, who had been silent up until this point, finally spoke up, his voice thick with emotion. She's done this before, you know. Destroyed families, ruined lives, all for the sake of her own greed and power. The crowd murmured in disbelief, their eyes shifting between Marla and the three of us. I could see the realization dawning on their faces, the scales finally tipping in our favor. Marla's composure began to crumble, her mask of false concern slipping away to reveal the true, twisted nature beneath. "You'll all regret this," she shrieked, her eyes wild with desperation. "I'll make sure you pay for this, every last one of you." Finn raised a hand, silencing the crowd. "That's not going to happen, Marla. We've filed the necessary legal actions to strip you of any claims to the family's assets and home. Your reign of manipulation and deceit ends here." As the authorities arrived to take Marla away, the air seemed to ripple with a palpable sense of relief and triumph. Ellis and I stood side by side, our shoulders squared, a small but victorious smile playing on our lips. The community members who had once been swayed by Marla's lies now looked upon us with newfound respect and admiration. They had seen the truth, the ugly reality of Marla's machinations, and they rallied behind us, offering their support and condolences. In that moment, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The battle was won, and our family's legacy had been reclaimed. Marla's downfall had been swift and decisive, a testament to the power of truth and the strength of our united front. As we left the event, Jared approached us, a tentative smile on his face. "Thank you," he said, his voice soft but sincere, "for exposing her, for giving me a chance to make things right. I'm sorry I couldn't do it sooner." I reached out and squeezed his hand, my own eyes brimming with unshed tears. "You're part of our family now, Jared. We're in this together." As we walked away, Ellis draped an arm around my shoulders, pulling me close. "It's over, Teague. We did it." I nodded, my heart swelling with a mix of relief and pride. The journey had been arduous, but in the end, we had emerged victorious, our family's legacy and our home secure. It was a bittersweet triumph, but one that filled me with a renewed sense of purpose and determination. As the dust settled after our public confrontation with Marla, the full weight of her downfall began to sink in. Watching her facade crumble, her desperate attempts to cling to power and control, was both satisfying and sobering. Finn wasted no time in initiating the necessary legal actions to strip Marla of any claims to our family's assets and home. The evidence we had gathered, bolstered by Jared's first-hand accounts, proved to be a devastating blow to Marla's case. "She's done," Finn declared, a triumphant glint in his eyes. "The judge has ordered the immediate transfer of the house and your father's estate back to you and Ellis." Ellis let out a breath I didn't realize he had been holding, his shoulders slumping with relief. "Finally, some good news. I was starting to think this whole thing would never end." I nodded, a small smile tugging at the corners of my mouth. "It's over, Ellis. We can finally start to rebuild, to move on with our lives." But as we celebrated our victory, a sense of unease began to creep in. Marla, once so confident and in control, had been reduced to a cornered animal, lashing out with desperation. "This isn't over," she hissed, her eyes burning with a twisted rage. "You think you've won, but I'll make sure you pay for this. All of you." Finn stepped forward, his expression unwavering. "Save it, Marla. Your threats hold no power anymore. You're going to jail for your past crimes, and you'll never be able to hurt this family again." Marla's lips curled into a snarl, and for a moment I saw a glimpse of the true darkness that had been lurking beneath her veneer all along. "You have no idea what I'm capable of," she spat. "I'll make sure you all suffer, just like I have." As the authorities led her away, I couldn't help but feel a chill run down my spine. Marla's words, laced with a chilling certainty, sent a wave of unease through me. Had we truly seen the last of her twisted machinations? In the days that followed, the community rallied around us, offering support and condolences. They had witnessed Marla's true nature firsthand, and many expressed shame and guilt for having believed her lies. "We should have seen through her act sooner," one of my colleagues said, her eyes downcast. "I'm so sorry, Tegan, for not trusting you." I reached out and squeezed her hand, offering a reassuring smile. "It's not your fault. Marla was a master of deception. She fooled all of us for a long time." As we began the process of reclaiming our family's home and rebuilding our lives, a sense of cautious optimism began to take root. Finn, Ellis, and I worked tirelessly to create a community arts program in our father's memory, channeling our energy into something positive and meaningful. But just as we were starting to find our footing, a sudden and shocking development sent shockwaves through our community. Marla, in a final, desperate act of vengeance, had been arrested for the fraudulent activities uncovered in her previous marriages. The news hit us like a punch to the gut, a stark reminder that Marla's reach had extended far beyond our little town. Ellis and I exchanged a worried glance, our triumphant smiles fading. "We should have known she wouldn't go down without a fight," Ellis murmured, his brow furrowed in concern. I nodded, my mind racing with the implications. "We can't let our guard down, not now. Marla's still out there, and she's proven she'll stop at nothing to get what she wants." As we grappled with this new development, I couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. Marla's downfall had been swift and decisive, but the scars she had left on our family would take time to heal. And with the knowledge of her past crimes now laid bare, I couldn't help but wonder what other surprises she might have in store for us. In the aftermath of Marla's downfall, Ellis and I found ourselves at a crossroads, both physically and emotionally. The family home we had fought so hard to reclaim now stood before us, a bittersweet reminder of the tumultuous journey we had just endured. As I stepped through the familiar threshold, memories of my childhood flooded my mind. Laughter-filled family dinners, cozy nights spent reading by the fireplace, and the warm embrace of my father's love. But now, those cherished moments felt tainted, overshadowed by the darkness that Marla had cast over our lives. Ellis reached out and squeezed my shoulder, his expression solemn. "I know it's not going to be easy, Teague, but we've got to start somewhere." I nodded, taking a deep breath to steady my nerves. "You're right, this is our home, our family's legacy. We can't let Marla's poison destroy that." Together, we began the daunting task of reclaiming our space, removing any trace of Marla's influence. It was as if we were erasing the very existence of the woman who had threatened to tear our family apart. As we worked, Finn joined us, a small but determined smile on his face. "I'm here to help, in any way I can," he said, his eyes meeting mine with a warmth that I hadn't felt in years. The three of us, united in our mission, set about restoring the home to its former glory. Slowly but surely, the familiar sights and sounds began to resurface, and with them, a sense of comfort and belonging that had been so cruelly ripped away. "It's going to take time," Finn said, his gaze sweeping across the room, "but we'll get there. This place will be a home again, I promise." I reached out, grasping Finn's hand in a silent gesture of gratitude. The walls that had once stood between us seemed to crumble, and in that moment I felt a glimmer of hope for the future. As the weeks turned into months, Ellis and I poured our hearts and souls into creating a community arts program in our father's memory. It was our way of honoring his legacy, of turning the darkness that Marla had brought into something beautiful and meaningful. Jared, the once estranged son of our former adversary, became an unexpected ally and a part of our extended family. His insights and personal experiences proved invaluable as we navigated the complex emotional terrain, and his commitment to the arts program was a testament to his own redemption. "I'm grateful for this," he said one day, his eyes shining with a newfound sense of purpose, "for the chance to be a part of something that's making a real difference in people's lives." I reached out and squeezed his hand, a warm smile spreading across my face. "You're family now, Jared. We're in this together." As the community rallied around our initiative, I couldn't help but feel a sense of pride and accomplishment. The scars left by Marla's deceit would take time to heal, but in the act of rebuilding, we were forging something stronger, something that couldn't be torn apart by the machinations of a single twisted individual. Finn, ever the steady presence in my life, became a constant source of support and guidance. The walls between us had crumbled, and in their place, a renewed sense of trust and affection blossomed. It was a gentle, yet powerful reminder that even in the face of adversity, love could still find a way to flourish. As I stood in the newly restored family home, surrounded by the people I loved, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. Marla's reign of terror was over, and in its wake, a new chapter had begun, one filled with hope, resilience, and the unwavering strength of our family bond.